Welcome back to the Shankly Sessions, folks. This is your Merseyside Derby preview. Liverpool versus Everton, coming to you this Sunday live from Anfield, a Super Sunday at 4:30. Klopp versus Lampard. A little bit of history with these two boys, a little bit of needle there, and it'll be interesting to see if it flows over again. Of course, huge respect for both, for each other, but last couple of times they've met each other, there's been a little bit of needle, let's say. So, and I'm sure this will be no different. But previewing the game, looking at it, I mean, never has a Merseyside derby had such implications at both ends of the Premier League. I mean, for Liverpool, obviously still chasing this historic quadruple and staying in a title race. Big games coming up next week as well, Villarreal in the Champions League. So no doubt there'll be one eye on that, but we have to be laser focused on the Premier League. And obviously for Everton, really struggled this season. Change of manager, brought in Frank Lampard, have still struggled somewhat, albeit pulled out a big win against Man United, but then drew with Leicester the other night with a last gasp equaliser from Richarlison. But it's I think for the Reds, it's really, we go into this, I think Klopp will make a couple of changes, nothing major, but we have to go into this to get 3 points, and not only get 3 points, but more importantly, come out the other end of it with no injuries, because we know that Everton, let's say, for lack of a better word, like to get stuck in. We also like to get stuck in, but we can ill afford, with the volume of games we have coming up. Every one of them feels like a cup final, including this one coming up on Sunday. We can ill afford to have any injuries going into these games, especially to key players. And nearly every player these days is a key player for Liverpool with the run-in that we have chasing this quadruple. But 15 places ahead of them and 47 points separate these local rivals. And I'm sure there's a lot of banter coming up. You know, the 4-0 drubbing we gave Man United also marked our 11th Premier League victory in a row at Anfield. But Everton would like nothing more than to rock up to Anfield and take us out of the title race, because we do firmly believe at this stage, with the way Man City are playing, and they will have played ahead of us at this stage, so they'll be potentially 4 points ahead of us when this game comes around. So it's really important that we get the win. But of course, Everton would like to stumble that title race while picking up a point or 3 points themselves on the way. Now, the gulf between the two teams is obviously massive, and we'll discuss it later on. You can see it even in the betting. It's just massive. If you look at Everton, they've struggled all season. They just this year they've obviously had injuries and stuff like that. Obviously missing Dominic Calvert-Lewin for such long stretches of the season is obviously not going to help you. And the other players just simply haven't stepped up. You know, some of the youth has come through and looked really well at times, but it's been a real struggle for them this season. I have to say, as a Liverpool fan, I'm not too sure whether you Reds will all agree with me or not. I kind of don't want them to get relegated. I kind of love the Merseyside derby. I love the history of both clubs, and I love the history of that rivalry in the city and stuff like that and all. And I would fear for Everton. I think if Everton did go down to the Championship, I think obviously they'd lose a number of players, key players, will not head down there with them. And I think they'd find it a real struggle in the Championship, and I think you could potentially see a Leeds Part 2 evolving if that was to happen. And I kind of as much as we disdain in terms of the injuries that's been caused over the years and the way they go about their game and that kind of dirtiness in their play and stuff like that and all, there's something kind of sacred, isn't there, about a rivalry within a city like that, the red versus the blue, and the being so close to each other, literally across Stanley Park. And it's just, there's something about it is that I still get excited for it every year, regardless of the gulf of where we are. I'm still really excited for Sunday. It's a Merseyside derby. I want to see our boys get stuck in. I want a real solid, tough game. But I want us obviously to come out on the winning side and come out on the winning side well and come out injury free. But I don't know. My heart is torn between, them going down and getting relegated and the Merseyside derby going. and not having it now, albeit we could meet in the cups next season or something like that. But I don't think it would help the city either, you know what I mean, for Everton to end up out of the Premier League, the history of the club and the history of both our clubs. I think it's really, really important that we face each other at least twice a year. And I know Reds fans might be shocked at me saying this. And let me know down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Would you like to see them go down? Of course, if they go down, we'd laugh at them, and the slagging and the banter would be absolutely outrageous, as you can imagine. I mean, it came so close, I think, back in 1994, where they just about escaped by the skin of their teeth. But I don't know. Let me know, Reds fans, what you think. I mean, would you miss the Merseyside derby? Is it important? Is it one of those games? I think I look to those two games in the calendar every year when the fixtures come out. And I look at them as potentially as two games I'd like to go over for and stuff like that. So, yeah, and I remember the history of it. And maybe because I'm an older Reds fan or something like that, I remember the history between the two of them and some of the great games that we've had against each other and stuff like that, you know. But yeah, I mean, they're scrapping. I mean, if you look, they're in the midst of a relegation battle, and obviously they would have been buoyed by the United win, and even that point could be massive against Leicester. But then Burnley coming out and absolutely beating Southampton, which wouldn't have been expected. Best case, probably a draw. And now they're right up again. That there's a point between them, I think. And Everton have to play us on Sunday, and I'm not sure who Burnley play. But it's, you know, if Burnley were to get a win, I think they're playing at 2:00 on Sunday against one of the teams. And I think if Burnley were to win and go 2 points ahead of Everton, and then we were to beat them, I don't know whether Everton would have the taste or the resolve or the strength to climb out of that bottom three if they fall into it. And yeah, just kind of in two minds about it. You know, if you look at current form anyway at the moment, Liverpool in the Premier League with five wins and a draw in their last 6 games. The draw obviously coming against Man City. Everton, 3 losses, 2 wins and a draw. The win against Man United, which was absolutely massive. You could see how the players collapsed onto the pitch. And we've probably never seen a better performance from Alex Iwobi on the day. He was absolutely brilliant against Man United. And then they drew across last gasp draw against Leicester the other night, of course, with Richarlison getting the goal laid on. That point could be absolutely massive for them. Let's get into team news. Liverpool, only concern is Bobby Firmino. He's carrying a bit of a foot injury. The gaffer spoke about it today in the press conference, saying that he might be okay, but if there's soreness there, they're going to hold out. They're not going to push him into the Everton game. They'd prefer to have him fit for the Villarreal game, and that's fair enough. And I think Bobby Firmino, even though he has slipped slightly down the pecking order in terms of the boys that have come in and stuff like that, Jota and Diaz and all, I think he still has a big role to play in this season and how it will turn out and stuff like that. Of course, we all love Bobby Dazzler, so let's see, can we get him okay for Wednesday against Villarreal and at least be in the squad and available to us to produce some of that look away magic maybe. For Everton, Dominic Calvert-Lewin missed the Merseyside derby due to a tie issue, which will keep him out for at least 10 days, while Donny van de Beek and Andre Gomez are fresh concerns as well that may miss. They also have long-term absences in Andros Townsend. Andros Townsend, at the start of the season, was playing really, really well for Everton. I think he scored a few goals and had a few assists as well, and he was playing really, really well. Nice player like Andros Townsend. Tom Davis also was out as well, and Nathan Patterson. So Frank Lampard with a bit to do there. A number of key players there missing from Van de Beek, Andre Gomez. Andre Gomez, a player I like as well, a very strong midfielder and stuff like that. And also Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who just can't seem to catch a break there at Everton at the moment. He's just been injury ridden throughout this season. So if you look at the starting lineups for Liverpool, Alisson, Trent, Matip, Van Dijk, Tsimikas, Henderson, Fabinho, Keita, Salah, Jota, Diaz. Interesting lineup there. That's what's come out as the possible lineup. I don't know. I wonder, will he fancy putting Konate in there? I think Konate had like a taste of a Merseyside derby, and he could bang us a goal, you know, off a set piece or a corner. So he might go in there instead of Matip, maybe keep Matip for the Villarreal game, but we shall see. Henderson, Fabinho, and Keita. Interesting that he's going to, you know, not risk Thiago in this one. I'd imagine he'll have him on the bench, but Thiago has been in scintillating form But maybe Klopp is just going to like be careful with him going into the Villarreal game. I think he'd be pivotal in the Villarreal game in opening up that midfield, especially with the strong players they have like Dan Juma and stuff like that. So he could hold back Thiago and rest him for that. Salah, Jota, Diaz, not a problem at all. I think when you look at the front five, I think any combination of that front five at the moment gets us very, very excited. And I think it's pivotal that he's putting Jota in here, because Jota's just one of those guys that gets under people's skin. And that's kind of the modus when it's against Everton. They try to get under our skin and drag us down into their game. And I think if we can beat them at that, we might have a card up on them on the day. So, yeah, I can see why he's putting Jota in there. He'll be an absolute pest to Michael Keane, who, of course, is having an absolute howler of a season himself, which is very unusual because Michael Keane has been solid for years there at Everton. But this season he seems to have come unstuck, and there's always a mistake in him. The Everton lineup: Pickford, Coleman, Mina, Godfrey, Mikalenko, Delph, Alan, Iwobi, Gordon, Richarlison, and Gray. The boy Gordon I really do like. He's an Everton boy, but he's a really, really good player. He's an honest young kid, but plays lovely football and gets stuck in and likes the old battle. So it'll be interesting to see how he fares out in the Merseyside derby. Tidy little player in there. Fabian Delph, who would have guessed it? Fabian Delph in midfield, you know. Alan I like as well. He's a strong L midfielder. There's a little bit of dirt to him that we've seen in the past, but he's another one who likes to get stuck in and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how himself and Hendo measure up. Samiskis coming in for Robbo. Robbo's another one there. He put in a real good shift against Man United the other night. He absolutely was up and down that side all night long. So I'm not surprised if he was to rest him. But again, Samiskis coming in, and we know he likes a little bit of the shithousery as well. We know how he carries on as well. So he might start those games against Everton as well. You know, that bit of shithousery, very similar to Jota. So you can see the way this kind of structure of the possible starting lineup here, you know, pretty solid in all areas. But just a little bit of shithousery in there as well. A little bit from Keita, obviously, does a little nasty streak in him as well. We've seen over the last few weeks. He doesn't mind throwing a leg in when required. Jota, of course, is just... he's just a pest, and obviously Samiskis is very similar as well. So it'll be interesting to see if this is the lineup that Klopp goes with. But if it is, I'd be quite excited to see. You can see rows breaking out here all over the pitch, so it should be fun. But yeah, Richarlison, I mean, we know how good Richarlison can be on his day, and Gray obviously as well. So certainly one not to be complacent about. It is a Merseyside derby. Can't get drawn down into their type of game. They're fighting for their lives, so they will do anything to come away there with anything they can. But it's up to us to go out the same way as we did against United, be professional, put a few goals on the board, settle the game down, then play the ball around and frustrate them. Don't give up possession easy. Keep possession all the time. If you're looking at a prediction, I'm thinking 4-1 to Liverpool. I just think we'll have too much for them all over the pitch. And it'll be interesting to see how that Burnley game goes. To really, like, if Burnley were to win their game or draw their game at the weekend on Sunday, that would really put the pressure on Everton going into this game. So we shall see. But I think Liverpool 4-1. If you look at the betting, I had a quick look at the betting. Liverpool are 1-6 on. The draw is 6-1, and Everton are 16-1. I don't think in my lifetime, in watching Merseyside derbies, and I've watched a lot of Merseyside derbies, I don't think the gulf in the betting has ever been that extreme. 1-6 on Liverpool and 16-1 Everton. But the facts and the stats of the season don't lie, and Everton are in serious, serious trouble. And it'll be interesting to see, can Frank get them out of there. But coming to Anfield on a Sunday, on a Super Sunday, with Liverpool in the title race and chasing down a historic quadruple, is not the place to be going if you're looking for points to survive in the division. Until next time, Reds, drop your predictions down in the comments there. If you want to contact the show, Twitter @SessionShankly, the Upper Tier Podcast @gmail.com, Facebook, Instagram, and Facebook and Instagram, the Upper Tier. Audio shows on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and we're also out on TikTok, the Upper Tier Podcast, dropping clips every day. We will be back on Sunday evening with a match reaction. hopefully with the right result, and hopefully with no players injured or stretchered off. Till next time, Reds, a pleasure. Let's keep this dream of this historic quadruple going.